Picture this. You've just graduated with a law degree. What comes next? A swanky office in the CBD? A day of meetings with well-heeled clients on high-stake cases? For this group of young lawyers, it's this.
Obviously, this is a very different setting. I never imagined that I would be a lawyer and that I would one day be working, out of a temple. My own mother was very surprised to see my new office. She's like, what's wrong with Raffles Place? But this is, I think, Singapore's most unconventional law firm.
These are the officers of Pro Bono SG. It's a charity, and the young lawyers here give legal advice for free.
So you will need to prepare to go to court and to accept the charges against you.
他是要告你是吗？是。The other driver is saying that you want to sue her, so she don't know what to do. She's quite anxious about that.
Yeah, I think very important is for us to get the accident report as well as any police report that was made.
The clients are mainly people who can't afford or don't know how to get legal help any other way.
在这边的人，他们就进来很奇怪，为什么有2个集装箱挡住你的前面？到底是什么东西？经过我们跟他解释说，这个是 Pro 的免费帮助弱势家庭的法律问题。哇，每个都很高兴。坦白讲，在我们的印象中，律师就是要替人打官司赚钱。第一次我们接触到了，才知道原来律师也有做免费的工作。
This is our waiting area where applicants can wait to be processed. Once they're processed, they may go to the meeting room and wait for a lawyer to attend to them. Now let me show you the office of the lawyers. And this is where the magic happens. Let me show you one more thing. This is a repurposed karaoke booth that we use for our court calls.
Surya is one of several young lawyers who signed up for Pro Bono SG's one-year fellowship program, where he works full-time. Many of these lawyers joined fresh out of law school.
Some of my friends were quite surprised that such a position even existed, that you could be a full-time pro bono lawyer.
Back in a decade ago, most of the pro bono work that was done was really done by volunteers. So you would have to do pro bono work while juggling your other professional responsibilities as well. And now it's different. We see a lot more opportunities for young lawyers for full-time pro bono work.
The Hougang Centre is the first of its kind. A community law centre located within 5 kilometres of at least 40 social service centres. So it sees a steady stream of clients for its pool of young lawyers.
The work that we come into contact with here is the day-to-day reality for many people and many families in Singapore. You would get experience, dealing with people from all walks of life. If you think about it closely, the law actually underpins almost every aspect of your life. It governs the relationship you have with your family, with your employer, with your neighbour, and even with the country itself.
Since 2023, Pro Bono SG has seen nearly 800 cases across its 2 community law centres. Most cases involve inquiries about estate issues like drafting a will or family matters such as divorce. While the community law centres deal mostly with civil and family law cases,
for the case that I'm going through, it's not that easy to fight. If I lose 15, 20 years of my life going to be gone.
Pro Bono SG also takes on criminal cases that do not involve the death penalty. In late 2023, Daniel was held in remand without bail for nearly 3 years, while waiting for his case to be tried in court. His charges included 3 counts of sexual assault when he did not have a lawyer to represent him.
I came to know about Pro Bono SG from some friends inside the prison when I was remanded. The exact word is $1 lawyer, they say. People inside say that the Pro Bono will half-boil, go halfway only.
$1 lawyer, now $2 because inflation. There's a perception that If you get a pro bono lawyer, they're not going to do the type of work that a paid lawyer would do. They're not going to give as much, they're not going to work as hard. That's absolutely not true. I give my best. I'm answerable to the court if I do not put up a performance that meets the standards of the court.
Sadhana co-heads Pro Bono SG's in-house team of lawyers who focus on criminal defense. Young lawyers under the Charities Fellowship Scheme can choose the community law route or join this team and be thrown into the deep end.
The learning curve was very steep at the start.
Very early on, we are put at the forefront of many of our matters.
Besides leading meetings, young fellows may also have to defend their clients in court, a challenge typically reserved for more senior lawyers.
At my first sentencing hearing, where I was mitigating on behalf of a client, I would say that it was a rather scary moment for me, going up before a judge and presenting arguments to mitigate and get an appropriate sentence.
There's pressure because I think the work that we have has a very direct impact on our clients, be it an imprisonment term or fine.
This role is not for the faint of heart. We are, in that sense, the last line of defense. If not, they will be unrepresented in the courts.
Although Daniel had heard mixed reviews of pro bono lawyers, he decided to apply to Pro Bono SG.
The first lawyer that I met was Sadhana and Prem. They assured me that they are here to go all the way. They doesn't sugarcoat me. They only tell me one thing. If I'm being truthful, then hope for the best. But at the same time, I was prepared to get the worst. For my own thinking, right, with Singapore, this type of law, I cannot win this case. Because I thought that the law will side the other side.
When it comes to he said, she said offences, the misconception is that the court only listens to the complainant and will not listen to the accused person. Trial is the greatest equalizer. It is an opportunity for the accused to have his version of events heard and to have the evidence tested.
In the end, the judge gave Daniel a discharge not amounting to an acquittal. He walked out a free man shortly after. Should new evidence emerge, however, he could be retried in court.
I almost giving up because I got no confidence. When Sad and Prem came by, I took it as a sign that I can fight this case.
Most of the pro bono work that the lawyers do flies below the radar with little or no recognition. But sometimes they take on a case that's gained national notoriety. Remember this story?
Police made a grisly find at this block of flats last week.
The burnt remains of the toddler were found in a metal pot inside an HDB flat at Chin Swee Road.
Neighbours living on the same floor said that they've never seen the couple or the child, and neither have they heard or smelled anything unusual.
The parents had allegedly committed the murder in 2014, and the child had already been dead for 5 years.
The toddler, named Umaisha, was 2 years old when she died in 2014. In late 2023, her father was charged with culpable homicide and her mother with perversion of justice and child neglect. While in remand, the mother applied to Pro Bono SG for legal aid. Sadhana and Premnath became her lead defense counsel.
I remembered when I first stood up before the judge, I don't think there was a single person in that room that looked at the situation and thought she deserves pity or sympathy.
Benedict, who was slightly over 2 years out of law school, was roped in to help.
So my role involved working together with my team to draft the mitigation plea for this client.
A mitigation plea is a statement that highlights an offender's personal circumstances in the hopes of getting a reduced sentence.
My two main concerns were how do I manage my emotions regarding this case? Am I even the right person to assist the team with mitigating on behalf of this client?
She was pleading guilty, so my main role was to highlight any mitigating factors in her favour that would help to reduce the sentence. And so my difficulty really was explaining how a mother could do this to her child.
Sadhana and Premnath told the court about the mother's own history of abuse, allegedly at the hands of her stepfather and her husband. But the plea didn't succeed. The judge sentenced her to 14 years in jail, which was what the prosecution had asked for. The lawyers also found themselves put on trial in the court of public opinion.
What did I just read? Also, the lawyers defending them can sleep at night?
Some of these comments are like, bro, these lawyers will just say anything, everybody also got mental issues. She has absolutely no maternal instinct. What kind of lawyer would argue that? What kind of woman would argue that? As defense counsel, my job is not to judge my client. My job is to advocate. If anything, I was on the side that needed me most. It is equally important to look at these reasons, to appreciate the background of an offender, to understand their historical cycles of violence and abuse as well.
Indeed, many of those who come to Pro Bono SG for help are grappling with complex and challenging personal issues.
Very often, the client is also facing financial insecurity, job insecurity, mental health issues, family breakdown. And very often, these social challenges are interconnected to the legal problem, which is why we require our lawyers to really work closely with the social sector.
The Chin Swee case really made me appreciate how to separate my emotions about a case from doing my best as a defense counsel for the client we were serving. Because no matter how heinous an offence may be, every person deserves their day in court and deserves the right to legal representation. National Service cemented my decision to apply to law school and to pursue law as a career. As a charge clerk in National Service, I was involved in compiling case files as well as legal defences for servicemen in my unit who were accused of flouting military law. These were servicemen whom one might find very easy to just dismiss as a troublemaker or beyond hope. But my role involved me going behind the allegations and also understanding the circumstances behind why they did what they did. So for instance, there were some servicemen in my unit who didn't come to camp because they were working outside, because there was a lack of a parental figure at home. Everyone has a certain background which might lead to them making the decisions they made. Now, whether these may hold water in court or not, that's a different story.
Amongst all of the work that I was doing in private practice, to me, criminal litigation stood out the most because it brought me the closest to the community.
While Pro Bono SG draws fresh-faced young fellows like Benedict, it also attracts mid-career switchers who have spent some years in private practice, like Jian Yang, who switched over from a mid-sized law firm that did civil and commercial litigation.
So based on my experience in civil litigation, what I felt was that the practice revolved more around the numbers. Whereas for criminal litigation, the work that we do has a direct impact on human lives. I decided to focus more on criminal litigation. And I think Pro Bono SG was one of the key options that I had at that point in time. As a young lawyer, what is most daunting for us is that the other lawyers we go up against can sometimes be much more senior. Internally, we have very capable and talented senior lawyers who can provide us with guidance. And we also have a huge network of volunteer lawyers who have immense experience running trials and providing guidance on case theory, for example. So even if I might not have the level of seniority as compared to my opposing counsel, I still get the guidance of someone who is significantly more senior than me.
Sadhana and Premnath also left private practice to join Pro Bono SG and are two of the longest-serving full-time members of the charity. They acknowledge that there are some sacrifices.
I work the same long hours, by the way. I had to take a pay cut. I obviously don't get on all these 40 under 40 top lawyers, that get reported in these legal newsletters.
If you're going to be comparing it to the international law firms, then almost definitely I would reckon that they will be earning significantly more. But of course, if you look at it from the perspective of perhaps a mid-sized to a smaller firm, I would say that it is competitive and it is comparable.
At the time in private practice, I was actually extremely burnt out and I wanted to run off to an elephant sanctuary in Thailand and just kind of switch off for a bit. And this person whom I considered to be a mentor approached me and said, well, there's this opportunity, you've always wanted to give back. Indirectly telling me, don't be stupid, keep fighting. I think that reminded me why I studied law in the first place.
Pro Bono SG is gearing up to expand its reach to more people in need across Singapore. In July 2024, it launched its first legal clinic for transnational families. It also has another specialized clinic, one for migrant workers in Little India. But that's not all.
The feedback from our social service sector colleagues is that there is a strong demand for legal services from all of their centres. The plan is to have 5 community law centres eventually, serving the entire Singapore island in order to bring that convenience and accessibility to people that need the help the most.
When it comes to free or low-cost legal representation in the courts, besides the charity Pro Bono SG, Singapore has 2 state-run services for low-income Singaporean citizens and permanent residents. But these services are located in the central business district, which may not be all that accessible for people in need like Mr. Yo.
Hello. 还好吗？好。2023年收到一封信，说有政府部门的 job 啊，法庭来的，看是英文信来的，我看不懂。
那时候你的朋友先帮你读那封信
啊，解释给我，你太太要申请这个申请跟我离婚什么，叫我这怎样办？没有律师也是很难讲。然后他提出的离婚的条件，我有的反对啦，比方赡养费啊、抚养权这个事啊，我就觉得无助。现在事情来到我太太跟我要上法庭的时候，我觉得我一个人上去讲不到话，需要帮忙了。
Mr. Yo visited the Community Law Centre in Hougang for a consultation.
后来介绍我去政府机构，我就找到政府的律师跟我帮忙，这样我就轻松很多了。
There are many clients that actually have difficulties going down to the central business district to seek help. We have had clients that felt intimidated by the state courts building, with the scanners and the security. We even have some clients without access to a mobile phone, and they can't scan QR codes and access online forms. We do need to bring the services to the people instead of requiring them to come to us.
Perhaps an older generation of lawyers had very different considerations. All of us wanted to make it big. Now we are looking at a generation of lawyers that are looking beyond some of these considerations and they're asking themselves, what's my purpose? Why am I doing this? And so we're receiving a lot more applications from young lawyers fresh out of school who want to do this as their first job.
If you're asking me whether or not this is going to be the first choice for everyone, I fully accept that it may not be. But I would urge everyone to, at some point in their career, just take up a case pro bono and, see how that comes along.
I think young lawyers that want to join us must have a heart for the work, a sense of adventure.
It may not be the best paying job, it may not be the most glamorous, and it may not attract the most accolades, but I'm extremely excited to come to work every day. That keeps me here at Pro Bono SG.
Sue has extended her fellowship for a second year. Surya, whose contract is up in September, hopes to extend his fellowship too. Benedict is undecided.